The automatic doors slide open, letting in a gust of city air and the sharp sound of Imani's uneven footsteps. She clutches her side, face drawn tight with pain, and stumbles toward the check-in desk. Angela, the triage nurse, notices immediately, her eyes full of concern as she helps Imani into a chair. Dr. Callahan stands a few feet away, flipping through patient files, his pen tapping a restless beat against the counter. Imani tries to steady her breath, but her voice comes out shaky as she speaks. "Something's wrong. I can't catch my breath. It's sharp right here." She presses her palm to her ribs, hoping someone will listen. Callahan barely glances over, his attention still on the paperwork. "Vitals?" he asks, not bothering. To hide his impatience, Angela checks Imani's pulse, her touch gentle. "Pulse is high. She's sweating, doctor." Callahan finally looks up, his eyes cool and unreadable. He scribbles something, the scratch of his pen louder than Imani's labored breathing. "Anxiety," he says flatly. "You're young. It happens. Take some ibuprofen, drink water, and you rest." Imani's lips part in disbelief. "This isn't anxiety. I know my body, please." But Callahan's gaze is already sliding away. "Next patient," he calls, signaling for Angela to move on. Angela hesitates, her hand lingering on Imani's chart, but the routine of the ER presses forward. She hands Imani a prescription, her fingers brushing Imani's in a silent apology. Imani stands, her movements slow, pain etched in every step as she makes her way to the exit. The doors close behind her, leaving Angela staring after her, a knot of worry in her chest. Callahan returns to his files, the moment already fading from his mind. The hum of the hospital continues, indifferent, as one woman's pain is quietly dismissed, and another's conscience grows heavier. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Imani sits on the edge of the exam table, the paper beneath her crackling with every shift. The room is chilled, the air thick with the scent of antiseptic. She wraps her arms around herself, sweat beading at her hairline despite the cold. Dr. Callahan enters, barely glancing her way as he flips through her chart. He stands at the counter, posture rigid, eyes fixed on the numbers instead of the woman in pain before him. "Describe it again," he says, voice clipped. Imani's voice trembles as she tries to explain. "It's stabbing right here. It's not going away. I can't sleep. It's not just stress." Callahan's face remains impassive, his jaw working as he jots a note. He doesn't move closer, doesn't examine her. Instead, he shrugs, the gesture small but final. "You're young. We see this a lot. Take the medication and rest." Imani's frustration rises, her fingers digging into the edge of the table. "Please, this isn't normal for me. I know something's wrong." Her plea hangs in the air, met only by the hum of the fluorescent lights and the distant beep of a monitor in the hallway. Callahan sighs, tucking the chart under his arm. "If it gets worse, come back. There's nothing more I can do right now." He turns to leave, pausing only to add, "Try to relax." The door swings shut behind him, the click echoing in the small space. Imani sits frozen, the cold of the room settling into her bones, her pain unacknowledged. She stares at the door, hope draining from her face, the injustice settling heavy in her chest. She slides off the table, gathering her things in silence, her dignity battered, but her resolve beginning to harden. Angela stands just outside the exam room, her hand resting on the doorframe as she watches Imani gather her belongings. The hallway is busy, but the sounds seem far away. She wants to speak up, to call Dr. Callahan back, but her words stick in her throat. She sees the way Imani moves, slow and careful, every step a struggle. Angela's heart pounds as she debates what to do. She glances down the corridor, catching a glimpse of Callahan already deep in conversation with another doctor, his attention elsewhere. Angela's fingers tighten around the small notebook tucked into her pocket, a place where she writes down things she can't say out loud. She pulls it out, flipping to a fresh page, and scribbles a line. Another patient left in pain. No one listened. Her handwriting is shaky, anger and guilt bleeding into the paper. A colleague passes by, offering a quick nod, but Angela doesn't return it. She watches Imani disappear around the corner, her shoulders slumped. Angela wants to follow, to offer comfort or at least an apology, but the routine of the hospital pulls her back. She tucks the notebook away, the act small but defiant. The intercom crackles, calling her to another room. Angela hesitates for a moment longer, then forces herself to move. Inside, she checks a patient's IV, her mind still on Imani. She catches her reflection in a glass cabinet, eyes tired, jaw tight. The weight of what she didn't say lingers. As she leaves the room, she pauses at the nurse's station, looking back down the hall where Imani had gone. The hospital's rhythm continues, but Angela's conscience won't let her forget. She presses the notebook to her chest, a silent promise to do better next time, even if the system keeps moving forward. Imani steadies herself against the wall as she leaves the exam room, her grip leaving faint marks on the paint. The corridor stretches ahead, lined with faded posters and staff who barely glance up. Each step is slow, pain radiating through her side, but she keeps her head high. A nurse wheels a cart past, murmuring a distracted, "Excuse me?" Eyes never meeting. Imani's. The hum of machines and distant voices fill the air, but none of it touches her. She passes the nurse's station, where Angela sits, hands folded tightly in her lap. Their eyes meet for a moment. Angela's gaze full of regret. Imani's full of hurt. Neither speaks. Imani pushes through the double doors, the cold air outside, hitting her face. She pauses on the sidewalk, breath fogging in the night, clutching her jacket tighter. Behind her, the sliding doors close with a soft thud, sealing her out. She glances back once, the hospital's lights harsh against the darkness. Her phone buzzes in her pocket, but she ignores it, focusing on the ache in her body and the heavier ache in her chest. A security guard at the entrance nods but offers nothing more. Imani walks past, her steps echoing on the concrete. She fumbles for her keys, hands shaking. The parking lot is nearly empty, her car waiting at the far end. She unlocks it and slides into the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel until, her knuckles pale. For a moment she just sits, eyes closed, letting the weight of dismissal settle over her. Inside, Angela watches from the window, worry etched deep in her features. The hospital's routine continues, but something has shifted. Imani's dignity remains intact, but the wound of being overlooked lingers, a scar that will not fade quickly. Callahan sits at his desk, the overhead lights reflecting off stacks of patient files. He flips through charts, signing his name with practiced efficiency. The phone rings, and he answers with a brisk, "Dr. Callahan." A colleague asks about a case, but he barely listens, distracted by the growing pile of forms. His pen glides across the page, each signature a stamp of authority. Angela approaches, holding a single sheet of paper. She hesitates, then places it quietly on his desk. "Some new research," she says, her voice low. Callahan glances at the paper, barely skimming the title statistics about disparities in pain treatment. He nods without reading, returning to his paperwork. Angela lingers a moment, searching his face for any sign of understanding, but his focus never wavers. She turns away, her footsteps soft against the tile. A junior doctor enters, dropping off another folder. "You want me to follow up on the Brooks case?" she asks. Callahan doesn't look up. "No need. Routine," he replies, waving her off. The junior doctor hesitates, her brow furrowing, but leaves without pressing. Callahan's phone buzzes again. He silences it, annoyance flickering across his face. He signs another document, the sound sharp in the quiet office. The walls are lined with certificates and awards, reminders of his status. He doesn't notice the printout Angela left, now buried under a stack of files. Angela stands outside the office, watching through the glass. She sees the way Callahan moves, confident and unbothered, unaware that the ground beneath him has started to shift. The hospital's routine continues, but the balance of power is no longer as certain. Angela presses her hand to her pocket, feeling the folded research inside, a quiet promise that the truth will not stay buried forever. The memory surfaces as Imani sits in her parked car, the hospital's glow fading in her rearview mirror. She's 9 again, standing in a cramped waiting room, her mother, Ruth, beside her. Ruth's hand trembles as she presses it to her chest, her breathing shallow. The receptionist barely glances up, voice flat as she asks for insurance. Ruth winces, whispering, "It's tight, right here." A doctor finally appears, white coat crisp, eyes scanning the chart, but not the woman in front of him. "You're anxious," he says, his tone brisk. "Try to relax, Mrs. Brooks." Ruth's lips part, but she doesn't argue. She just nods, her jaw set, and gathers her things. Imani watches, confusion and fear swirling in her chest. On the drive home, Ruth squeezes her daughter's hand. "Sometimes they don't hear us," she murmurs, voice barely above a whisper. "You have to know your own body. You have to keep speaking, even when they don't listen." The car's heater rattles, the city lights blurring past the window. Imani studies her mother's face, memorizing the lines of pain and quiet strength. Back in the present, Imani's grip tightens on the steering wheel. The lesson is old but sharp, her pain, her mother's pain, so easily brushed aside. She exhales, eyes stinging as the weight of history settles on her shoulders. The world outside is quiet, but inside, resolve begins to build. She wipes her eyes, starts the engine, and drives home, her mother's words echoing in her mind. The memory is a wound, but also a warning. Imani knows now she can't afford to be silent, not for herself, not for anyone who will come after. Imani sits at her kitchen table, a battered notebook open in front of her. The lamplight casts a pale circle over the pages, each one crowded with dates, symptoms, and rushed notes from late-night ER visits. She picks up a red pen, underlining today's entry: sharp pain, dismissed as anxiety, no tests ordered. Her handwriting trembles, frustration bleeding into every letter. She flips back through the pages, tracing the timeline of her struggle. March 14th, waited 3 hours, sent home. April 2nd, pain worsening, told to hydrate. Each dismissal is marked in red, a pattern too clear to ignore. Imani presses her palm to the paper, willing herself to remember every detail. Her phone buzzes. Angela's name flashes on the screen, but Imani lets it go to voicemail. She isn't ready to talk. Instead, she writes another line in the margin. "I know what I feel. I won't let them erase it." The words steady her, a quiet act of defiance. A neighbor's laughter drifts through the window, distant and muffled. Imani pauses, listening to the ordinary sounds of life outside her door. She wishes, just for a moment, that her body would be believed without question. She closes her eyes, the ache in her side matched by the ache in her chest. She snaps the notebook shut, sliding it into her bag. Tomorrow she'll bring it to her next appointment, proof in her own handwriting that her pain is real and persistent. The red ink stains her fingers, a reminder that she's keeping score, even if no one else will. Imani stands, her resolve hardening. If the system won't keep a record, she will. Angela sits on the edge of her bed, the hospital's fluorescent afterglow still clinging to her skin. She opens her small, leather-bound journal, flipping past pages filled with rushed notes and half-finished thoughts. Tonight, her hand shakes as she writes, "Another black patient left hurting. I watched. I did nothing." The words blur as her eyes fill. She remembers Imani's face, the way pain creased her brow, the hope that flickered and faded under Callahan's gaze. Angela presses her pen harder, the ink bleeding through the paper. She wants to write more, to explain, but the words refuse to come. Her husband pokes his head into the room, concern etched in his features. "Long shift?" he asks. Angela nods, closing the journal halfway. Just tired, she murmurs. He lingers, offering a gentle squeeze to her shoulder before retreating. The house is quiet, but Angela's mind races. She tucks the journal beneath her pillow, a secret she can't share. The weight of complicity settles heavy in her chest. She replays the moment at the triage desk, wishing she'd spoken up, wishing she'd done something, anything, to change the outcome. Angela wipes her eyes, staring at the ceiling. She promises herself she'll do better next time, but the promise feels thin. She lies back, the journal pressing into her side, a constant reminder of what she didn't say. In the darkness, Angela listens to the hum of the refrigerator, the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. She closes her eyes, but sleep won't come. The memory of Imani's pain lingers, sharper than regret. Tomorrow, she tells herself. Tomorrow she'll find her voice. Louis lingers at the nurse's station after his shift, the hallway nearly empty except for the soft shuffle of shoes and the distant ring of a phone. He flips through a stack of patient files, his fingers pausing on Imani's chart. Possible anxiety, the note reads. He frowns, jaw clenched, remembering the look on her face as she left. A senior resident approaches, dropping a thick folder onto the counter. "You're still here?" she asks, raising an eyebrow. Louis nods, avoiding her gaze. "Just finishing up." She shrugs, moving on, but her hesitation lingers in the air. Louis copies a few pages, slipping them into his bag. His hands tremble, not from fear, but from the weight of what he's doing. He glances around, making sure no one is watching. The fluorescent lights flicker overhead, casting long shadows down the corridor. He finds Angela in the break room, her face drawn. "Did you see her chart?" he asks quietly. Angela nods, her lips pressed tight. "It's always the same," she whispers. Louis hesitates, then says, "It shouldn't be." Their eyes meet, a silent agreement passing between them. Louis leaves the hospital, the cool night air stinging his cheeks. He walks home, the copied files heavy in his backpack. He replays the day's events, questioning every decision, every moment. He stayed quiet. The city is alive with distant sirens and the hum of traffic, but Louis feels alone with his doubts. He unlocks his apartment, tossing his bag onto the couch. He sits, staring at the files, wondering what it will take to break the pattern. Louis knows he can't change the system overnight, but tonight he's taken the first step. The silence is no longer comfortable. Angela stands by the HR office, a thin envelope clutched in her hand. The return address is shaky, the handwriting uneven. She opens it carefully, unfolding a single page. The words are written in blue ink, each line pressed deep into the paper. "I'd rather spend my last days at home than return to a place where my pain is overlooked. I'm tired of being questioned, tired of being doubted. Please cancel my appointments. I wish you well." Angela's eyes sting as she reads. She recognizes the name Mr. Jenkins, a patient who always brought a quiet dignity to the waiting room. She remembers his gentle smile, the way he'd grip her hand and thank her for listening, even when the doctors didn't. A colleague passes behind her, pausing when she sees the letter. "Everything okay?" she asks, voice tentative. Angela nods, folding the letter with care. "Just paperwork," she replies, forcing a small smile. The colleague lingers, uncertainty flickering across her face, then moves on. Angela walks to the records room and slides the letter into Imani's chart, her hands steady but her heart pounding. She stands for a moment, staring at the file, feeling the weight of every story that goes unspoken. Back at her station, Angela glances at the clock, the day's routine pressing in. She presses her palm to her chest, grounding herself. The letter is a quiet indictment, a testament to the cost of being unseen. She knows she'll remember Mr. Jenkins's words long after the shift ends. Angela sits, the hum of the hospital around her, and wonders how many more letters like this will be written before anything changes. She makes a silent vow to carry these stories forward, even if no one else will. Angela enters the staff lounge early, the scent of stale coffee lingering in the air. She carries a folder of research articles, her grip tight. The room is quiet, just the low hum of the vending machine and the distant sound of laughter from the hallway. She lays out the printouts on the table, studies on pain assessment disparities, charts showing racial gaps in treatment, headlines clipped from medical journals. A nurse in pink scrubs pours herself a cup of coffee, glancing at the papers. She pauses, brow furrowing as she reads a highlighted line. Black patients are less likely to have their pain treated appropriately. She looks up at Angela, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Did you put these here?" Angela nods, her voice steady. "It's important." Two orderlies walk in. One snatches a donut. The other scans the articles, lips pressed in a thin line. "That's not about us, right?" he mutters. The first shrugs, but neither meets Angela's gaze. Dr. Callahan strides through, his attention on his phone. He barely glances at the table, grabbing a mug and heading out. The nurse in pink watches him go, then looks back at Angela. "Do you think it'll change anything?" she asks, voice low. Angela shrugs, her shoulders tight. "It has to start somewhere." The room fills, staff drifting in and out, some stopping to read, others ignoring the display. A junior resident lingers, tracing a finger over the statistics, her jaw set. She tears off a copy, tucking it into her pocket as she leaves. Angela gathers her things, heart pounding, but hopeful. The research remains, a quiet challenge left in plain sight. As she walks out, she glances back. The article's still on the table, the first cracks in denial beginning to show. A teenager in the waiting room scrolls through her phone, pausing as she notices Imani leaving the ER, face pale, steps uneven. She lifts her phone, records a short video, Imani clutching her side. No one offering help, the automatic doors closing behind her. The teen's thumbs fly as she types, "Just watched a black woman get sent home in pain. No one even cared." This is healthcare. She hits the post. Within minutes, notifications light up her screen. The video is shared, retweeted, and commented on by strangers, activists, and even a local reporter, Tasha Lynn. Tasha's eyes narrow as she watches the footage, the hospital's logo clear in the background. She takes a screenshot, then drafts a tweet of her own. How many times does this have to happen before someone listens? She tags the hospital, her followers, and a few medical advocacy groups. Angela is on her break, scrolling through her own feed when she sees the video. Her stomach twists. She recognizes Imani instantly, the pain in her posture unmistakable. She glances around the lounge, wondering if anyone else has seen it. A nurse beside her mutters, "That's our place, isn't it?" Angela nods, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, it is." The hospital's administration office buzzes with alerts. The PR manager's phone rings non-stop. "Should we respond?" someone asks, voice tight with worry. "Not yet," comes the reply. "Let's see if it blows over." But the views keep climbing and the comments pile up. Stories, outrage, calls for accountability. Imani sits at home, her phone silent, unaware her story is spreading. The world outside her window is quiet, but online, her pain has become a spark. The system's cracks are now visible to everyone, and the fire has only just begun. Tasha Lynn sits at her cluttered desk, headphones on, the viral video of Imani looping silently on her laptop. She scribbles notes on a yellow pad, frustration etched across her brow. Her inbox pings with messages, anonymous tips, patient stories, screenshots of hospital reviews. She listens to a voicemail, a shaky voice recounting, "They kept telling me it was nothing. I knew it wasn't." Tasha jots down the date, her pen pressing hard. She dials a number, waiting as the line rings. "This is Tasha Lynn, local press. I'm looking into patient care at County General." There's a pause, then a wary, "I can't talk about that." Tasha's tone softens. "I'm not asking for names, just what you've seen." The voice on the other end sighs. "It's not just one time. It happens a lot. People know, but..." The call ends abruptly. Tasha reviews medical records, highlighting patterns. Pain complaints dismissed, repeat visits logged, the same doctor's signatures. She flips through a folder of patient surveys, circling phrases. Felt rushed. Not. Believed. Sent home. She interviews a nurse off the record, who keeps her eyes on the floor. We try, but it's hard to change things when no one wants to hear it. The nurse's hands fidget with her badge, a nervous habit. Late into the night, Tasha maps connections on her wall-read string-linking cases, sticky notes marking timelines. Her partner brings her coffee, setting it down with a gentle squeeze, to her shoulder. "You're onto something," he says, voice low. Tasha nods, eyes never leaving the evidence. She drafts a headline, "Ignored in pain, a hospital's blind spot." The words feel heavy, but necessary. As dawn breaks, Tasha presses save, her story nearly ready. The hospital's secrets are no longer hidden. The world will know what's been happening behind closed doors. The hospital's administration wing buzzes with nervous energy, phones ringing off the hook and staff huddled in tense clusters. The CEO stands at the head of a long table, face drawn, voice clipped. "We need a statement. Now." A PR manager scrolls through trending hashtags, her hands trembling as she reads angry tweets aloud. They're tagging the board, the mayor, even the state medical board. This isn't going away. Callahan sits at the far end, arms crossed, jaw tight. He glances at Angela, who avoids his eyes, her posture rigid. Someone from legal flips through a stack of documents, muttering, "We can't comment on patient specifics." The head of nursing clears his throat. "Should we reach out to the family?" The CEO shakes his head. "Not yet. We don't want to admit fault." A junior administrator, barely out of grad school, suggests, "Maybe we should address the bias claims directly?" The room falls quiet, the suggestion hanging in the air. The PR manager looks at the CEO, uncertain. "If we admit there's a problem, we open ourselves up to lawsuits." The CEO's response is sharp. "We're already exposed. Just control the message." Angela shifts in her seat, her hands balled in her lap. She considers speaking up, then stops herself. The weight of the room is suffocating. Callahan finally breaks the silence. "It's all being blown out of proportion. We follow the same process for everyone." The legal advisor's lips press into a thin line, skepticism barely hidden. The meeting ends with no clear plan, only more confusion and fear. As the staff files out, Angela lingers, watching the leadership scramble. The hospital's confidence is gone, replaced by frantic damage control. Outside, the story keeps spreading, and the cracks in the institution's armor grow wider by the hour. Imani sits at her desk, the glow of her laptop illuminating her tired face. Her symptom journal lies open beside her, red ink marking every dismissal, every unanswered question. She stares at the blank application essay, her fingers hovering over the keys. The words come slowly at first, then pour out in a rush. "I want to be the doctor I needed," she types, her voice trembling in her head as she writes. "I want to listen to every patient who's told their pain isn't real." She pauses, remembering her mother's warning, the cold rooms, the doctors who never looked her in the eye. Her jaw tightens. She continues, "I know what it means to be overlooked. I know what it costs. I will not let another person leave." A hospital feeling invisible. Tears blur her vision, but she keeps going. She writes about the notebook, the research she's done, the statistics she's memorized. She describes the moment she realized her story was not unique, that there were others like her, dismissed and doubted. "I am not angry with myself," she writes. "I am angry for every person who was sent home hurting." Her phone buzzes with a new headline about the hospital, but she ignores it, pouring her frustration and hope into the essay. She types and deletes, then types again, determined to get it right. She ends with a promise. "I will fight for those who are told to be quiet. I will be the voice I never had." Imani reviews her words, heart pounding. She uploads the essay, her finger hesitating over the submit button. With a deep breath, she clicks send. The screen flashes confirmation. She leans back, exhausted but unbroken, her resolve sharper than ever. The world may not have listened before, but she will make them listen now. Callahan sits in his office, the early morning sun casting harsh lines across his desk. He sifts through a pile of charts, his mind half on the previous night's emergency cases. His phone vibrates, screen lighting up with a news alert. He ignores it at first, but another ping follows, then another. With a sigh, he unlocks his phone. The headline blares, "Ignored in pain, a hospital's blind spot." Tasha Lynn's byline sits beneath a photo of the ER entrance. He scrolls, his jaw tightening as he reads. Patient after patient, their words quoted in bold. "They told me it was nothing. No one listened. I left worse than when I arrived." He sees Imani's name, her account detailed with dates and symptoms. The words sting, sharper than he expects. His hand hovers over his coffee, knocking it sideways. Brown liquid seeps into a stack of charts, spreading across the desk. Angela passes by his open door, pausing when she sees the mess. "You all right?" she asks, voice careful. Callahan doesn't answer, eyes glued to the screen. Angela steps inside, her gaze flicking from the spilled coffee to the headline. "It's everywhere," she says softly. He finally looks up, the weight of realization settling on his features. A junior doctor pokes her head in, holding a printout. "You should see this," she says, handing him a copy of the article. He takes it, hands trembling. The office feels smaller, the walls closing in. He tries to speak, but the words catch in his throat. The sound of his own name in the story echoes in his mind, not as a respected physician, but as a warning. Callahan sits back, the article heavy in his hands. For the first time, he wonders if the damage is beyond repair. Imani sits at her desk long after midnight, the apartment dark, except for the pool of light from her lamp. Textbooks are stacked beside her, pages marked with sticky notes and scribbled reminders. Her phone, screen cracked, glows with the article about her story, her name in print. Her pain finally acknowledged by strangers. She reads the headline again, jaw set, then picks up her highlighter and drags it across a line in her notes. Systemic bias kills. The highlighter's tip snaps, leaving a streak of yellow across her hand. She wipes it on her jeans, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. She flips open her symptom journal, scanning the red marks, each one a memory of being passed over, each one a reason to keep going. Her mother's voice echoes in her head, gentle but firm. "Don't let them quiet you." Imani closes her, eyes letting the words settle. She breathes in, slow and steady, then exhales, determination sharpening. A text from Angela pops up. "Saw the article? Proud of you." Imani smiles. Small but real. She types back, "It's not just me. It's all of us." She glances at the clock, 2:13 a.m., and pushes her chair closer to the desk. She reads another passage, underlines a statistic, and adds, "A note in the margin. Remember why you started." Outside, the city is silent, but inside, Imani's mind is alive with purpose. She stacks her books, sets her alarm for dawn, and whispers to herself, "They won't erase me." She turns off the lamp, the room falling into darkness, but the resolve in her chest burns brighter than ever. Tomorrow, she'll keep fighting. Tonight, she lets herself believe that change is possible. The auditorium buzzes with anticipation, rows of white coats and tailored suits filling every seat. The lights dim, and a hush ripples through the crowd. Backstage, Imani stands alone, her hands steady as she smooths her coat. Her name echoes from the podium, announced with a reverence that wasn't there years ago. She steps into the spotlight, the applause thunderous, but she keeps her gaze forward, jaw set, posture tall. She walks to the lectern, her heels clicking against the polished floor. The hospital board members sit in the front row, faces tight, eyes flicking between her and the program in their laps. Callahan sits further back, shoulders hunched, fingers digging into the armrests. He avoids her eyes, his presence smaller than she remembers. Imani rests her hands on the podium, letting the applause fade. She scans the audience, her voice calm but unwavering. "Thank you for inviting me," she begins. "I stand here today not just as a surgeon, but as someone who once sat where many of you are now, unheard, overlooked, determined to be seen." A murmur runs through the crowd, a few heads bowing, others meeting her gaze with new respect. She continues, "My story is not unique. It belongs to every patient who was told their pain didn't matter. It belongs to every voice that was quieted, every life changed by a moment of dismissal." She pauses, letting the weight of her words settle. Angela, now in a leadership role, sits near the aisle, nodding once, pride and regret mingling in her eyes. Imani's presence fills the room, her calm a challenge and a promise. The auditorium is silent. The power dynamic unmistakably shifted. Imani stands taller, the years of struggle shaping every word, every breath, every step. Imani's keynote slides illuminate the screen behind her, the title bold, "Survival Despite the System." She glances down at her own name tag, clipped to her coat, Dr. Imani Brooks, trauma surgeon. In the crowd, Callahan fidgets with his badge, the plastic edge digging into his palm. His reads, "Dr. Peter Callahan, senior physician." He slides it off, slipping it into his pocket, eyes darting away from the stage. Imani's gaze sweeps across the audience, pausing on Callahan just long enough for him to feel it. She continues, "Titles and credentials don't guarantee compassion. They don't guarantee justice. They only show what you've been allowed to become, not who you choose to be." The words hang in the air, sharp and deliberate. A junior doctor, in the front row, glances at her own badge, fingers brushing the letters as if weighing their worth. A board member shifts uncomfortably, clearing his throat while Angela sits motionless, her hands folded, a small smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. Callahan's jaw tightens. He looks down at his empty lap, badge hidden from view. The applause that follows Imani's statement is measured, but a few in the crowd clap harder, their approval clear. Imani's eyes find them, offering a brief, grateful nod. She closes her remarks. "We can't change what we refuse to see. We can't heal what we won't acknowledge." The audience is silent, the message landing with unmistakable force. Callahan shifts again. The absence of his name tag, a quiet admission, a signal that the power he once held is slipping away. Imani steps back from the podium, her badge gleaming in the light, a symbol of what she's earned and what others have, lost through inaction. Imani's hand closes around the microphone, knuckles white against the sleek metal. She takes a breath, letting the room's stillness settle. "There was a time when I sat in a cold exam room, told my pain was just nerves. I remember how small I felt, how invisible." Her voice doesn't waver, but the memory sharpens every syllable. A few rows back, Callahan's leg bounces, his program crumpled in his fist. He glances at the exit, then back at Imani, caught between wanting to disappear and needing to hear what comes next. Angela sits straighter, her eyes never leaving the stage. Imani continues, "I'm not alone. I've read the surveys, the complaints, the stories that never made it past the front desk. Some of you know exactly what I mean." A board member shifts, adjusting her glasses. The audience's collective breath feels held, the air thick with discomfort. She pauses, fingers tightening on the mic. "We talk about best practices, but we don't talk about the cost of being dismissed. We don't talk about the lives changed by a single moment of disbelief." Her words echo, bouncing off the walls, leaving no room for denial. A resident in the back lowers his head, scribbling something in his notebook. Callahan's jaw works, but he says nothing. Imani's gaze sweeps the room once more. "We have to do better, not just for our patients, but for ourselves, for what this profession is supposed to mean." She lets the microphone rest against her chest, the quiet that follows heavier than any applause. The room is changed, The facade has cracked. Imani stands in that silence, unflinching, her presence demanding a reckoning. The conference crowd filters out for a break, voices low, coffee brewing in the corner. Callahan stands by a small table, stirring sugar into his cup, hands unsteady. Angela approaches, her badge now reading Chief Nurse. She sets her mug down, glancing at him. He doesn't look up, eyes fixed on the swirling coffee. He clears, his throat, voice rough. I didn't realize she'd get this far. The words hang between them, brittle and unfinished. Angela's gaze is steady, her reply cool. You didn't want to realize. There's a difference. He flinches, the spoon clinking against the mug. A young nurse nearby pauses, sensing tension, then moves away, pretending to check her phone. Callahan lowers his voice, almost pleading. It wasn't personal, we just followed what we were taught. Angela shakes her head, her tone soft but sharp. That's the problem. You never questioned it. You never listened. He looks up at her, regret flickering across his features. What am I supposed to do now? Angela's expression hardens. Start by listening, and don't expect anyone to forget. She picks up her coffee, leaving him standing there, the warmth of the cup a poor shield against the chill settling in his chest. Callahan watches her walk away, the hum of conversation around him suddenly distant. He looks down at his reflection in the dark coffee, seeing not the respected doctor he once was, but a man left behind by his own choices. The break ends, people drifting back to the auditorium. Callahan lingers at the table, the confession offering. No relief, only emptiness. The world he knew is gone, replaced by a new order he barely understands. The conference wraps up, the crowd buzzing with quiet conversation as people gather their things. Imani stands near the exit, engaged in soft conversation with a group of residents. Callahan approaches, his steps hesitant, hands clasped tightly in front of him. The gap between them is filled with years of unspoken words. He stops just short of her, searching her face for any sign of anger or forgiveness. Dr. Brooks, he says, voice low, congratulations on your success. Imani turns, her expression calm, eyes steady. She extends her hand, her grip firm, her smile polite, but distant. Thank you, Dr. Callahan, she replies, her tone even. He takes her hand, his palm damp, the handshake brief. Cameras flash, capturing the moment. A former gatekeeper and the woman he once dismissed now equals in title but not in legacy. The crowd's chatter softens, attention drawn to the exchange. Imani holds his gaze a second longer. Thank you, she says quietly, for teaching me what not to become. The words are gentle, but cut deep. Callahan's mouth opens, but no reply comes. He releases her hand, stepping back, his face flushed. A senior surgeon nearby nods to Imani, respect clear in her gesture. A junior doctor snaps a photo, whispering to a colleague, That's history. Callahan stands awkwardly, the handshake, lingering in his mind, a symbol of everything he lost and everything Imani gained through perseverance. Imani turns away, her posture unbowed, her dignity unshaken. The crowd parts for her, colleagues eager to speak, to learn, to follow. Callahan watches, left on the edge of the room, the handshake a quiet verdict. Justice has been delivered not with anger, but with restraint and clarity. As the conference disperses, clusters of doctors, nurses, and students gather in the lobby, the air charged with new energy. Imani is surrounded by colleagues, their questions eager, their respect evident. In the way they lean in to listen, a junior resident hands her a business card, eyes bright with admiration. I hope you'll mentor me, she says, voice hopeful. Across the room, Callahan stands alone, clutching his empty program, watching the shifting tide. A former ally approaches, hesitates, then turns away, joining the group around Imani instead. The message is unmistakable. The center of gravity has changed. The old alliances are dissolving, replaced by a new sense of purpose and belonging. Angela, now in a leadership role, exchanges a glance with Imani, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they've shared. A senior physician, once skeptical, steps forward and offers Imani a handshake, his expression open. "We need you here," he says simply. Imani nods, accepting the gesture, her confidence quiet but unyielding. Callahan tries to catch the eye of a colleague, but receives only a curt nod before she moves on. He shifts his weight, the isolation settling deeper. The conversations around him are filled with talk of change, of new policies, of learning from the past. He realizes with a pang that his voice no longer carries weight in this room. A medical student snaps a photo of Imani with her new peers, posting it with the caption, "The future is here." The crowd's focus is clear, their loyalty realigned. Imani stands at the center, her influence undeniable. Callahan lingers at the edge, the crowd's shift leaving him behind. The hospital's culture has turned not with drama, but with a quiet collective decision. The room belongs to those ready to move forward. The conference lobby empties, voices fading as attendees drift toward elevators and exits. Callahan lingers by the coat rack, shoulders hunched, his footsteps muffled on the polished floor. He glances back at the auditorium, its lights dimmed, the stage already reset for the next event. The hallway stretches ahead, lined with framed photos of hospital milestones. He passes a new poster, Imani's keynote title in bold letters, her portrait beneath. His reflection in the glass looks older, smaller, the lines on his face deeper than he remembers. A janitor pauses to let him pass, offering a polite nod. Callahan manages a tight smile, but the gesture isn't returned. He hears laughter from a nearby conference room, the sound sharp against the quiet. A group of residents walks past, their conversation animated. One glances at Callahan, recognition, flickering, but quickly looks away, choosing not to engage. He continues down the corridor, the echo of his own steps, the only company. He passes the staff lounge, where Angela sits reviewing notes with a young nurse. She glances up, her expression unreadable, then returns to her work. The sense of belonging he once felt is gone, replaced by a cold distance. Callahan reaches the exit, pausing as the automatic doors slide open. The evening air rushes in, cool and indifferent. He hesitates, looking back one last time at the hospital. That was once his domain. The lights inside glow warmly, but he stands outside, separated by more than just glass. He steps into the night, the doors closing behind him with a soft click. The hallway is quiet again, the only trace of his presence a faint echo that fades quickly, swallowed by the hospital's new rhythm. The defeat is total, but no one needs to say a word. In a windowless boardroom, hospital executives gather around a polished table, tension thick in the air. The CEO clears her throat, voice low. "We need to address the leadership question." Folders are passed, hands trembling just slightly as they flip through pages, patient complaints, news clippings, survey results. A board member taps her pen, glancing at the others. "We can't ignore this anymore. The staff is watching. The public is watching." Legal counsel leans forward, voice measured. "If we delay, we risk more than bad press." A junior administrator, barely out of training, whispers, "We need new direction. The culture has changed." The words hang, heavy and undeniable. The head of HR nods, adding, "We owe it to our patients." A silent vote is called. Executives mark their ballots, some with relief, others with regret. The CEO collects the slips, counts them twice, then announces, "It's unanimous." No one cheers. Instead, there's a collective exhale, a sense of finality. The decision is recorded, signatures added in careful strokes. Down the hall, a janitor quietly removes Callahan's portrait from the wall, replacing it with a framed photo of Imani from her keynote. The glass catches the light, reflecting the faces of the board as they file out, subdued but resolute. Angela waits outside, catching the CEO's eye as she leaves. The CEO offers a brief nod acknowledgement of the shift, a promise that things will be different. The boardroom empties, the door closing with a soft thud. The old order is gone, replaced not with fanfare but with a quiet, determined resolve. In the stillness that follows, the hospital's future feels uncertain but open. The vote is over, the era ended. The whispers fade, replaced by the sound of new voices ready to be heard. The surgical suite is quiet except for the steady beep of monitors and the soft rustle of gowns. Imani stands beside a young black medical student, guiding her hands as they close a wound with careful stitches. "Take your time. Trust what you see," Imani murmurs, her tone gentle but sure. The student nods, her brow furrowed in concentration, fingers trembling slightly as she finishes the last knot. Across the room, a new attendant observes, her badge reading Dr. Ramirez. She offers a reassuring smile, arms crossed as she watches the lesson unfold. Imani glances up, meeting her eyes, and the two share a brief nod and unspoken understanding of what it means to be both teacher and trailblazer. The student steps back, pride and relief mingling on her face. "Thank you, Dr. Brooks," she says, voice quiet but steady. Imani places a hand on her shoulder. "You did that. Remember how it feels." The student smiles, confidence blooming in her posture. Angela enters with a chart. Pausing to watch, she catches Imani's eye, her own expression full of quiet pride. "You're building something here," Angela says softly. Imani nods, glancing at the student, then at the new attending. "We all are." The patient, awake now, looks up at the team gathered around her. "Thank you," she whispers, emotion thick in her voice. Imani squeezes her hand, offering a warm smile. "You're in good hands." As the team cleans up, the student lingers, watching Imani jot notes in the chart. She tucks a stray lock of hair behind her ear, determination settling in her features. The lesson is more than surgical. It's a promise that the next generation will not be alone. Imani steps out into the hallway, the sound of laughter and conversation echoing behind her. Her legacy is no longer a dream. It's alive in every stitch, every lesson, every student ready to carry it forward. The hospital atrium is filled with a gentle buzz, staff and patients gathering beneath a sheet-draped wall. Sunlight streams through the high windows, catching flecks of dust in the air. Imani stands quietly at the edge of the crowd, her white coat crisp, hands folded as she watches the final preparations. Angela stands beside her, a proud smile on her face, while Dr. Ramirez ushers a group of students closer, urging them to the front. The hospital director steps forward, microphone in hand. "Today, we honor a legacy of care, courage, and change." She gestures to a young patient who tugs the cord. The cloth falls away, revealing a vibrant mural. Imani in her coat, stethoscope around her neck, surrounded by images of healing, hands and determined faces. The colors are bold, the message unmistakable. A small child points, eyes wide. "That's her. She fixed my mom." The crowd breaks into applause, some snapping photos, others simply taking in the moment. Imani's eyes glisten, but she stands tall, her pride quiet and steady. Callahan passes through the atrium, head down, his presence barely noticed. He pauses, glancing up at the mural, his expression unreadable. For a moment, he lingers, then moves on, swallowed by the shifting crowd. Angela squeezes Imani's hand. "You did this. We did this." Imani nods, her voice soft. "It's just the beginning." Dr. Ramirez gathers the students, pointing out the mural's details, her voice full of hope. The students listen, their faces lit with possibility. The crowd disperses. The mural remains, sunlight illuminating every brushstroke. It's more than a tribute. It's a promise that the hospital has changed, that dignity and justice are now part of its foundation. Imani lingers a moment longer, then walks away, her legacy secured on the wall and in the hearts of all who pass by. The cafeteria is busy with lunchtime chatter, trays clattering, and laughter echoing off the walls. Callahan sits alone at a corner table, his meal untouched, eyes fixed on his phone. News alerts about the mural unveiling flash across his screen. Imani's name bold in every headline. Around him, staff move from table to table, exchanging stories and congratulations. But no one stops at his side. He glances up, searching for a familiar face. A nurse he once mentored walks by, offering only a polite nod before joining a lively group across the room. A junior doctor, deep in conversation with Angela, doesn't notice him at all. Callahan shifts in his seat, the isolation settling heavy in his chest. He scrolls through social media, watching video clips of the ceremony, reading comments filled with gratitude and hope. "She changed everything," one post reads. "Finally, someone who listens." He sets his phone down, appetite gone. The hum of the cafeteria continues, but he is invisible, a relic of a different era. A custodian clears a nearby table, pausing to wipe a spot of spilled coffee. She glances at Callahan, offering a brief sympathetic smile before moving on. He nods in return, the gesture small and tired. The room feels colder, the distance between him and the world growing with every passing minute. Callahan pushes his tray aside, hands trembling slightly. He stands, straightens his jacket, and walks out, unnoticed by the crowd. The cafeteria's noise swells behind him, but he carries only the quiet weight of his own regret. For years, his presence commanded attention. Now he slips through the hospital like a shadow, remembered only by the silence he leaves in his wake. At the weekly staff meeting, the conference room fills with the low murmur of conversation and the shuffle of chairs. Angela sits near the front, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The hospital director stands at the podium, glancing down at a neatly typed list. "This year, we recognize someone whose compassion and integrity have changed the way we care for our patients," she announces, her voice carrying above the crowd. Angela's name is called, and a ripple of applause follows. She rises, cheeks flushed, and makes her way to the front. Imani, seated among the doctors, meets her gaze and offers a small, proud nod. Angela accepts the certificate, her grip steady, but her smile is modest and reflective. The director continues. "Angela Foster is our new chief nurse. Her leadership and advocacy have made a difference for staff and patients alike." The room erupts in applause, some colleagues rising to their feet. Angela's eyes sweep the crowd, landing on a few faces that once doubted her, now clapping with genuine respect. A nurse in the back dabs her eyes, whispering, "She deserves it." A young orderly grins, nudging a friend. "About time." Angela clears her throat, voice soft but unwavering as she thanks the team. "I couldn't have done this alone. We all have a part to play in making this place better." After the meeting, Imani hugs her, whispering, "You earned every bit of this." Angela squeezes her hand, gratitude and resolve mingling in her expression. The staff disperses, but the shift in the room lingers. Angela's promotion is more than a title. It's a signal that the hospital's values are changing, one quiet triumph at a time. Callahan walks home as dusk settles over the neighborhood, briefcase swinging at his side. He passes tidy lawns and familiar porches, but the street feels different now. A couple he once greeted every morning sees him coming and quietly steps to the opposite sidewalk, their conversation dropping to a hush. Another neighbor, watering her garden, glances up, then quickly averts her gaze, focusing on her roses. He slows, noticing the shift. A child riding a bike pauses at the curb, watching him with uncertain eyes before pedaling away. The warmth he once felt here has faded, replaced by a quiet distance that stings more than words ever could. Callahan's footsteps sound louder on the pavement, the emptiness of the street pressing in. At the corner, an old friend stands by his mailbox, sorting letters. Callahan raises a hand, offering a tentative wave. The friend hesitates, then gives a stiff nod, turning back to his mail without a word. The message is clear. Things have changed, and not in his favor. He reaches his own gate, pausing to look back. The street is alive with evening routines, families gathering for dinner, porch lights flickering on. But he stands apart, unwelcome in a place that once felt like home. The isolation is sharp, A verdict delivered not by confrontation, but by absence. Callahan unlocks his door, stepping inside as the world outside moves on without him. He lingers in the entryway, listening to the muffled sounds of neighbors reconnecting, laughter drifting through open windows. The distance is unspoken, but absolute. For the first time, he understands what it means to be on the outside looking. In Imani's office glows with afternoon sunlight, the walls lined with books and photos of smiling students. A group of young black medical students gathers around her, notebooks open, eyes bright with anticipation. Imani sits at her desk, listening as one student describes a difficult case. She nods, encouraging, her voice gentle but firm. "You trusted your instincts. That's what matters." A student hesitates, glancing at the others. "What if they don't listen?" Imani leans forward, meeting her gaze. "Then you keep speaking. You keep showing up. That's how things change." The room is quiet for a moment, the weight of her words settling in. Angela enters, dropping off a stack of files. She pauses, watching the group, pride shining in her eyes. "You all picked the right mentor," she says softly. The students smile, the tension easing. Imani stands, walking to a bulletin board covered in thank you notes and photos from past mentees. She points to a faded picture of herself as a student. "I sat where you are now. I know how hard it can be." A young man in the back raises his hand. "How did you keep going?" Imani smiles, her answer honest. "Some days I didn't want to, but I remembered who I was doing it for. My mother, my patients, all of you." The group nods, understanding. The office door stays open, a symbol of welcome and possibility. As the students gather their things, Imani offers a final piece of advice. "You belong here. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." The students file out, their confidence renewed. Angela lingers, catching Imani's eye. "You're changing more than you know." Imani squeezes her hand, gratitude and hope mingling in her smile. The office, once a place of solitude, is now a sanctuary where second chances begin. The hospital's main hallway is lined with new posters. Every voice matters. Staff gather for a meeting in the auditorium, the air charged with anticipation. The director stands at the podium, her tone resolute. "Starting today, we're implementing new training on bias, expanding our hiring, and launching an anonymous reporting system. This is not just a change in paperwork, it's a change in culture." Angela sits near the front, pen poised over a fresh notepad. Imani stands at the side, arms crossed, watching as the director outlines the new procedures. A nurse in the second row whispers, "About time," to her colleague, who nods in agreement. A young orderly raises his hand, asking how staff can contribute ideas. The director smiles, inviting input from everyone. In the back, a few skeptics exchange wary glances but say nothing. The mood in the room is different than before, less resignation, more hope. The director continues, "We're opening up our staff meetings for open forums. If you see something, say something. No more looking away." Angela glances at Imani, who gives a small nod of approval. The director concludes, "This is our promise to each other and to every patient who walks through our doors." After the meeting, staff linger in the hall discussing the changes. Posters are tacked to bulletin boards, and a new suggestion box is installed near the entrance. A resident snaps a picture of the new signage, texting it to a friend. It's real. Things are finally shifting. Imani walks the corridor, reading the posters, her steps light. She pauses by the suggestion box, dropping in a note. "Keep listening." The hospital feels different, more open, more accountable. The promise is not just in words, but in the actions that follow. Callahan sits at his kitchen table, a stack of job applications and unopened letters in front of him. He scrolls through his email, reading another polite rejection. "We appreciate your interest, but have chosen a different candidate." His fingers drum the table, frustration building with each new message. He dials a former colleague, but the call goes to voicemail. He tries again, voice tight. Just checking in. Let me know if you hear anything." No reply comes. He glances at the clock, the afternoon light slanting across the floor. He picks up a letter, the hospital logo familiar, but the contents brief. "Thank you for your years of service. We wish you well in your future endeavors." He tosses it aside, the words ringing hollow. A recruiter calls, her tone distant. "We're looking for someone who fits our new direction." Callahan's jaw clenches. "I have decades of experience." She hesitates, then says, "We've decided to move forward with another applicant." The line goes dead. He stands, pacing the small kitchen, the silence pressing in. He looks out the window, watching neighbors chat on the sidewalk, their laughter faint but unmistakable. He remembers when his opinion mattered, when his presence commanded respect. Now, doors, close before he even knocks. He returns to the table, staring at the unopened envelopes. The world has moved on, leaving him behind. The reputation he built is now a barrier, not a bridge. He sits, shoulders slumped, realizing that what once set him apart now keeps him out. Callahan leans back, the weight of regret settling in. The opportunities are gone, replaced by polite refusals and empty promises. The price of his past is paid in isolation, each closed door a reminder that some mistakes cannot be undone. The hospital auditorium glows beneath soft stage lights, rows of seats filled with staff, patients, and community members. Imani stands, backstage, her hands steady as she smooths her dress. The MC's voice rings out, "This year's Patient Advocacy Award goes to Dr. Imani Brooks for her relentless commitment to dignity and equity in care." Applause swells, genuine and sustained. Imani steps into the spotlight, her presence commanding but calm. She accepts the plaque, pausing as the cheers fade. "Thank you," she begins, her voice measured. "This isn't just my story. It's the story of every person who waited to be heard, who waited for someone to care enough to act." Angela sits in the front row, eyes shining, pride and gratitude mingling in her smile. A former patient stands, clapping with both hands, tears in her eyes. A group of young medical students snap photos, their excitement contagious. Imani continues, "Change doesn't happen because one person speaks up. It happens because we refuse to look away, because we honor the pain and courage of those who came before us." She glances at the back of the room, where the hospital director nods in solemn agreement. A reporter leans forward, scribbling notes. A nurse whispers, "She did it." The applause returns, louder this time, echoing through the hall. Imani lifts the award, her expression resolute. "This is for those who were never believed, for those who are still waiting. We see you. We hear you. We will not stop." As she steps down from the stage, colleagues gather around, offering hugs and congratulations. The moment is both personal victory and public reckoning, a symbol of justice earned not through anger, but through unwavering resolve. Late at night, the hospital halls are quiet, lights dim to a gentle glow. Imani stands alone in the operating room, her white coat draped over a chair, the day's award resting on the counter. She gazes at her reflection in the glass wall, the faint outline of the new mural visible behind her. Her eyes are tired, but her posture is strong. She runs her fingers along the edge of the award, the engraved letters cool beneath her touch. Memories flicker, her mother's voice, the sting of dismissal, the faces of patients who trusted her when no one else would. She whispers, "Change doesn't roar. It builds, patient and persistent, until the walls finally fall." The words hang in the stillness, a vow and a release. Angela appears in the doorway, pausing before stepping inside. "You're still here," she says softly. Imani smiles, a quiet warmth in her eyes. "Just needed a moment." Angela joins her, both women looking at the mural, the image of Imani in her coat, surrounded by symbols of healing and hope. "I wish my mother could see this," Imani admits, voice thick with emotion. Angela squeezes her shoulder. She'd be proud. We all are. They stand together, letting the silence say what words can't. Imani turns back to her reflection, seeing not just herself, but every person who helped her get here, every patient, every mentor, every ally. The mural's colors glow in the glass, a reminder that her story is now part of something bigger, something lasting. As she leaves the room, Imani glances back one last time. The hospital feels different now, more honest, more open, more just. Her legacy is etched not just in paint or glass, but in every life changed by her courage to speak, to listen, and to lead.